we have so many different thoughts or, oh, I can't believe I did that. I feel like we don't often like kind of zoom out and be like, all right, I'm the CEO of myself. You're
Mm,
feeling this, you're feeling that. And taking a broader look, I feel like I would hope people can sort of hear that I kind of learned how to do that through this process of heartbreak all the way to self-realization and finding an outlet a little bit later than most people find music, right?
yeah,
And finding satisfaction and being confident and letting go of like old baggage and old like beliefs that you believed about yourself. If, you never made the success that you dream about, would you still do it? If they're
yeah,
like, no, then I would say maybe reevaluate and not saying don't do it at all. But you can tell if someone is doing it for the love of it from an authentic place.
yeah.
And that's what people connect with. Whether they connect with it all the way to success is
Hmm.
out of your hands. But if with what's in your hands you put what you have into it and it's coming from a place of art and really who you are and what you love, that's the success.
On today's episode 43 of Sculpt N Create, I'm sitting down with independent artist Capital Ferg, and his story is proof that sometimes creativity doesn't show up until life breaks something open. After going through personal challenges, heartbreak, and major life transition, Capital Ferg found himself turning poetry into music, teaching himself how to record and produce, and eventually building a sound rooted in storytelling, emotion, and growth. His project Unbreaking captures that journey, from brokenness to reflection to rebuilding. In this episode, we talk about starting music later in life, finding your voice, overcoming fear, creating as an independent artist, and why the real win is sometimes simply realizing, I didn't know I had this in me. This is one for the artists, creatives, and anyone who feels like they started late, got counted out, or had to rebuild from a place they never expected. Let's get into it. This is Sculpt N Create with Capital Ferg. And while you're listening, make sure you hit subscribe or follow and drop a comment with your biggest takeaways from the episode. Welcome to Sculpt N Create, where fitness fuels creativity in helping artists, entertainers, and creatives on their journey towards physical, personal, and career growth. I'm your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and who I got with me today is Capital Ferg. Welcome to the show, Capital Ferg.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Man, glad you can make it, man. So before we get into it and everything, let everybody know how they can find you, where to listen to your music, book you, and so forth. So set your links out.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the major music streaming platforms just under Capital Ferg. Just search the name, two words, Capital Ferg. And then Instagram, I think I'm capital_Ferg_music. And then YouTube and TikTok, it's just Capital Ferg, all strung together. So pretty straightforward. And I think I've got contact information there too if you want to reach out to me directly.
Okay. All right, cool. Y'all check Capital Ferg out and let's rock on, man. So let's talk about it. So Capital Ferg is the name. What kind of music does Capital Ferg make?
Yeah, so he at the root of it, it's hip hop, but it's definitely got some pop and electronic and R&B elements in it. I'd say the root of it is hip hop, but because I grew up listening to all kinds of different music and it really just came out of me naturally. It's
Mhm,
just whatever is in me and there's such a blend in there. But yeah,
mhm,
if I had to describe it, I'd say pop friendly hip hop that's kind of authentic with some
yeah.
electronic elements in it too.
Okay. All right. So pop friendly elements and everything. So with the album, I'm thinking this is your first album, Unbreaking, that you had first originally came out with.
Yeah, so
Mm,
I've been releasing so it was kinda interesting, man. I, like, didn't make music until 2 years ago. I kinda dabbled a little bit in, like, writing
mm,
songs on guitar. I knew some basic guitar. I actually did a couple open mic nights back in the day, but
okay.
I was going through a really hard time, like a impending divorce, and I started writing poetry.
Okay.
and really just to get my feelings out. And then I got my guitar back out and started playing around, but it didn't sound like I imagined it in my head. And then I
Mm.
sort of, went on this journey little by little without a, end vision in mind of just making music. And so I do have a lot of songs. I think I have over 50, but this is my
Okay.
first project that I released as like a cohesive album. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Okay.
so.
And you got one on the way, right? As well.
Well,
If
this
I,
is the one. It just
this
came
is
out.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. Just yesterday. Okay. All right. Before we get into it, I don't want to just break into it. No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to break into it just yet. Uh, so let delve into the when you said it's more pop, but it's kind of like a, in the sense
Yeah.
like you said, it's more of a melting pot of music with hip hop, the electronic elements and so forth. Now, what type of things do you talk about in your music? I see here you said it reflects on storytelling, emotion, evolution, and personal growth and transformation. So kind of like speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really is a snapshot into what I was feeling or going through at the time the song was written. And
Mm,
so it really comes from a place of authenticity. I've got songs in there, when they started out, they were definitely more heartbreak and kind of pissed off. But then as I started getting confidence in music and kind of moving on in certain ways emotionally, they started becoming more positive and inspirational. They've been reflective, so i- that's why I think this I call the Unbreaking just because it starts kind of with like where everything broke and then how music sort of has helped me unbreak myself. And so you'll see they
mhm,
start out kind of heartbreaking and then they get more positive towards
mhm.
the end. So yeah, it's whatever I'm going through. You can find different ranges of emotions, but I try to be really authentic so you can feel like, oh, this is comes from a real place when you hear it.
Okay. Gotcha. And so, like I said, so what would you say before we get into what's on Unbreaking? Like the song that's not on Unbreaking, like can you name some songs and kind of like give us a bit of a taste of what they would sound like, or even like a playlist of like what's those 5 songs that will talk about Captain Ferg, not Unbreaking. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna get more into it.
Yeah, so I'd say one of my first ones that I felt like was really defining was called Out of This Love. That one actually is on Unbreaking, but I
Okay.
re-recorded a newer version. And it was
Okay.
really like it was the first beat I made from scratch. I really like programmed all the elements and was experimenting and then wrote the song again from this place of again on the cusp of divorce and sort of that was really an expression from these poems that I'd written. I turned it into a song, and I remember like, oh wow, I just transitioned like these feelings that were poems,
Mhm.
and then turned into a song and like this piece of art. And I was like, it's like a sonic journal entry almost.
Yeah.
So that was one. But again, like I said, I kind of then I wrote another song. Because I used to be, kind of shy and would be reserved. And the
Mhm.
song was called "Be Bold," and it was about how what I was doing felt bold and counter, who I was before. And like, it's like
Mhm.
the refrain in there is like, it's time to be bold,
Mhm.
so those are some examples. Then I have, ones where it's like a pro, it's kind of like playful, like how I've been able to handle all that's thrown my way like a pro. And so it's kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, but
Okay.
like a little bit of like confident, but funny as well. So those are some, just flavors, but you can find the range, man, of like I've even written songs like going back to how I felt when I had my first kid, like that those
Okay.
feelings of becoming a
Okay.
dad. Really just whatever I was thinking about or meditating on or really feeling, I was like, I'm gonna transition this into a song. And so that's why the range is kind of broad like that. But generally it's positive. I mean, like I said, some of the heartbreak ones are not positive, but they're all authentic. I think none of them are such a downer. They always
Mhm.
have a positive spin, even if I'm coming from a dark place, knowing that there's hope on the other side. You'll always hear that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's what's up. And basically, like I like how you laid it out when you were saying I'm breaking. It's kind of like you started out with the brokenness, and then it's kind of like say go into how you fixing it and so forth. So it's more so like you said, a journal entry, but you letting people know how is being fixed or how they can possibly fix and relate to that too as well. So I
Exactly.
like yeah, okay, I like that. Now with the Capital Ferg, so I know as your real name Stephen Ferguson. So how did Capital Ferg come to be?
It's a good question. So when I first started this, the poems transitioning to songs. Like I said, I first tried the guitar. It didn't sound that great. And I was like, you know what? I want to like use beats or something that sounds more like produced and polished. And that was before I knew how to make my own beats, which I taught myself. But I found Rap Chat. I was Googling and found that
Okay.
platform. And yeah. And so like I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, you can rap on beats that are already there. You can publish them. You can just download them, keep them to yourself. You know, it's like a contained platform at first before I got like brave enough to put them out there. But I used their rap name generator. I was like, I don't know, like, and that was one of the ones that came up, and I was like,
Okay.
hey, I kind of like that. You know,
Okay.
it pays homage to me, Ferg, but you know, people used to call me Ferg. You know, so I felt like
Okay.
it was good. You know, I'm like, I like that one.
Okay, okay. I thought it was like, maybe I don't know what I thought, but I thought it was, but you sound like that's how Childish Gambino did his name. It was
Yeah,
I think it was a Wu-Tang rap name generator, and that's how he came out with his and so forth.
I heard
But
Post Malone did that too.
did okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was so I mean, now you mentioned though about your earlier days where you were getting music until you were, until you were got the courage to release the music. I want to speak to that because I think a lot of people have music or something is that they want to do, but they are scared to really show their interests or talents out there to the world. Talk to me like what was that like? You saying you were shy to put it out there, but then what gave you the courage and confidence to put it out there too as well?
Yeah, I think to be honest, the Band-Aid got ripped off when I was going through all those personal challenges and all these things that I fought so hard to keep were taken away from me and I had no control over them. And I think just the raw emotion
Mm,
of like, hey, I experienced this horrible thing with the divorce and you know what happened and it I tried to not let that happen, and then it got to the point where, like, you know what? I survived that fear, man. I didn't collapse, and it was
mm,
kinda like, well, I started facing other fears of mine, and they didn't feel as scary. Because to me, honestly, that was
okay.
probably the worst one, of, like,
Right.
losing, you know, what I had built and all that with my ex-wife, and so I think the having that happen was huge in terms of then allowing me to do other things that I may have never done because of fear, right? So I think we can use negative things a lot more in a positive direction than we know,
Right.
and so I really do think there's always, you know, tragedy sucks, but I think something amazing and unique can come out of tragedy, so I think, again, I would want people to take that away, and it's never too late too. It's like, you know, who starts music like this, you know, at 40 years old or early 40s like me.
Mm,
So, you know, it's never too late and, you know, use the bad thing and kind of lean into it because that you're going to have a lot of authentic emotions. Oh, I think just leaning into tragedy, even though it sucks, I think something really good can come out of it when you just experience your fears and go for something, right? So that's what I would
yeah.
want people to take away, and it's never too late.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think that's a reoccurring theme amongst making music, so forth. Now, it's definitely a stigma with hip hop, with coming out in your 40s. I'm turning 40 in a few days myself, so and I'm making music as well. Haven't released anything, but going to it just doing this business side of things and music. Those are two big dedications and disciplines and stuff like that. So, but planning to get stuff out. So, but with that said, though is I think people have those certain fears too as well. Like, okay, I'm too old to do this. Whether it's music, whether it's whatever it is in life they want to do, they scared to jump out and do something because of age, and then just because of fear, like how will everybody else look at me and think of me and stuff like that. What if I fail? Things like that. But I always hear too, the thoughts that you got in your head. Once you do the thing, you will realize that it's not really as bad as you thought it was when you was thinking about it. Do you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the fears have a way of being really loud and really sure of themselves.
Mhm.
And when you go through with it anyway, and you think back to that thought that you thought was so true, you realize it's like a big old like gong or pot and pan that's like a
Mhm.
lot of bark and no bite, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, most definitely. So now now we can talk a little bit more about Unbreaking. Like throughout so you started like a couple years ago. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
early
So
2024.
for 2024. Okay. All right. Cool. So up until now, the music that you've been making and dropping, up until making this, looks like a EP. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, EP. Yeah. So like up until now, breaking to it, like what led up to like what would the experience like making a whole EP instead of just dropping singles and so forth?
Yeah. I think it's a different kind of process and a different kind of way to present your art. I think a lot of people now, it's a s- there's a lot of singles being released, and I think it makes sense for a number of reasons for artists now. It's like there's less focus on an album or this cohesive story that it used to be, right? It's about individual streams and for independent artists or any artist, right? It's like you want to keep your fans engaged. So I feel like there's this unspoken rule of continually dropping songs. And so if you're doing that, right, you're not really building up songs that would then be presented in the form of an EP or album, maybe like you used to do, right? So
Mhm.
I think, and again, when I started, I was just it was like the floodgates opened, if you know what I mean, like all of the pent up creativity that I probably had and the satisfaction of letting it out. It was just kind of
Mhm.
like I was on a roll. I was just writing songs, release, and I was just releasing them as I finished them. And I think after a while of doing that, you kind of sit back and think, I have a story here of
Yeah.
like I want to put together. And so I did a few songs that I was like, these fit with some of my previous songs, but
Mhm.
those previous songs are not of the quality maybe that I would make now, or because either I recorded it early before I really knew my voice and
Right.
figured out the production stuff or had crappy equipment, right? So
Yeah.
I re-recorded a few of them again because I wanted the story to be authentic, and I had
Yeah.
written those songs at that point in time, and so I'm not gonna feel those emotions in the same way again. So
Yeah.
that song was the best snapshot of that emotion, and so I wanted it to be the full kind of story of when I started until now. And so yeah, I had a few new ones and then went back through the catalog and realized, okay, this one's the best representation of that. I need to re-record this one. And so then I kind of that's how I went about it. I kind
Okay.
of just noticed this theme and I was like, you know what? I feel like a lot of people, no one's gonna go through all 50 songs of mine. Like, they get buried in there and it's I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anything really. That's the main driver, is satisfaction for me. But I was like, well, if I want to sort of present it in a cohesive form and maybe get new people to understand who I am and what I'm about, I think something that tells a story like this EP, or it's kind of mini album EP. It's 8 tracks, but it's
Mhm.
under 25 minutes, so it's
Right.
still an EP, I guess. But yeah, no filler. I just wanted it to be like, what are those tracks that tell that story? And so that's kind of, and I feel like it's different. I feel proud of it, even though some of those songs had been done before and I just kind of revamped them because I can now see the story that maybe I knew was there. But kind of when I went through and realized there is this clear story and packaging it that way, there's just another layer of satisfaction that I didn't know
Yeah.
was there, right? When just releasing singles and going.
And the reason why I be asking a lot too, the difference between singles and action making an album is really like it's one focus concept when you're just making one song because you just really
Yeah.
like whatever that topic is for that song, you're going throughout. But when you are making an album or EP, it's kind of a story if or else if you just got a mixer of songs, it just sounds like you don't want that. You want to kind of sound cohesive, in that aspect. So I definitely understand what you're saying on that. So what would you say with a D Unbreaking? What type of story are you telling?
I think it's the story of heartbreak to hope.
Mhm,
And it's that art of the heartbreak occurring and what my journey was to find hope and
mhm,
rebuild in the process. And so it's given a snapshot in music, track
mhm.
by track, of what that looked like for me,
Okay.
in a nice little package that's, 22 minutes of listening from start to finish, right? So,
Mhm.
the intro track sort of is almost like a thesis statement. It's like just one verse. It's like a minute and a half, maybe, or a little under that, right? But
Mhm.
it's like I never planned this out, and then basically I talk about who I was before, what happened, and how the floodgates open. So it's kind of like a broad like intro to what this story is, and then track
Mhm.
by track it goes from like heartache, kind of longing for
Mhm.
the past, then it goes to kind of a humorous song on like there's nothing's the same, I have nothing
Yeah.
left except everyone's advice to entertain.
Okay.
And then it kind of goes into like, well, I'm still standing, I'm rebounding, and then I'm finally free, like, so it's
Yeah.
kind of this that, and to me, I called it the unbreaking. I'm not unbroken. I don't think anyone ever will be this side of eternity. I think it's a process of unbreaking, and this is a small window in that snapshot of
Mm.
how I keep trying to be unbreaking myself.
And for as listeners and so forth, what do you think they can, or what would you like them to take away from this, or how do you think it can help them in their world and their experience it?
I think a lot of people, myself included before, might not sit with all their emotions and really feel everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, give themselves grace, but also think like your own kind of CEO in your mind of like, we have so many different thoughts, or, oh, I can't believe I did that, or like, oh, I have to do this. But like, I feel like we don't often like kind of zoom out and be like, all right, I'm the CEO of myself. You're
Mm.
feeling this, you're feeling that. And taking a broader look, like you as a person, being more observant. So I feel like I would hope people can sort of hear that I kind of learned how to do that through this process of heartbreak all the way to self realization and finding an outlet a little bit later than most people find music, right?
Yeah.
And finding satisfaction and being confident and letting go of like old baggage and old like beliefs that you believed about yourself. I just think I want people to feel authentic. The journey is there, and it's possible for them, not necessarily music, but wherever they are, there's a better place from where they are if they're struggling or they want things to change or they wonder about something. And I hope they can hear that possibility in that,
Mhm.
regardless of their age, regardless of their circumstances, and how big or small it is. If it's bigger than mine or if it's smaller, whatever it is, man, just that people feel there is hope and I can take it one step at a time. And I'm hearing how this person did it and it's inspiring me.
Okay. I like that. Now, not only with you making the music, like you have all your singles and so forth, and then you come with this EP, your first EP, do you did you find it not only just hard for us to process in making a EP versus a just doing a single, but really just pouring your emotions out there is what I'm really getting to. So the two-part question. So putting your emotions in there, your life, and putting it on display for everybody to hear on this EP and so forth? Do you find that hard to put that out there?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it definitely puts it a little bit more on display when you put it in an EP and have it structured like that because if casual listeners might have found me in the algorithm or heard me on a playlist or, my friends or family kind of probably get the story, but they probably, have listened as I've released songs. And I think making that decision to do the EP and to put it all together in that way was maybe a step up in more, I guess, vulnerability in that it's showing kind of this journey and not me saying, "Oh wow, I have come a long way. I can see it in my music. I'm gonna show this in this EP." And I think it shows the past, but also the future and the journey. And it's like me zooming out a little bit and saying, yeah, I've been through some hard times and here's the whole story. I think it's just it's like another layer of just vulnerability of zooming out and saying, here it is, guys.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. And like I said, going through that process and making an EP, it definitely changes you. Would that change your outlook on how you make and singles from this point on?
It might, man. I don't know. I think it's for me, I've had less of like this game plan. It's just more how I'm vibing in the moment. I've kind of just been in the flow with this music stuff and
Yeah.
doing things as I see them. When I have an
Okay.
idea, I bring it to life and go. And this certainly is a different way than I'd done it before. So I'm sure it's going to
Mm,
change how I see music, how I release it. Now, I'll probably, release some singles again after this. I don't have anything in the
mhm.
works at the exact moment. I have a few tracks I've started,
Okay.
but nothing concrete. But yeah, I've already thought about like, all right, well, this EP is a story. What could a next one be? I think I've
Yeah.
already got some sub stories in the catalog
Mhm.
I have already. If I wanted to do something similar, kind of see what I have already and then add to it, or as I'm making music in my new path, from here on, maybe there's new stories that come up. But I would definitely want to write songs that are a story and authentic. I don't want to just keep writing songs about the same thing or maybe some songs are just kind of like fun and kind of don't
Yeah.
really have a deeper meaning. Not all my songs are like deep, but
Yeah.
you know, I want it to feel like I'm adding something to the landscape and more for me, like even if no one listens, like what am I doing growing as an artist? I think anyone, even if you're a painter, they'd be like, I don't
Mhm.
want to just keep painting the same things. That's not giving me
Yeah.
satisfaction. You want to paint something different or grow and figure something else
Right.
out.
I believe us as creators, we hate stagnant, stagnation, stagnation. I mean, we constantly already have all these ideas in our heads, and we gotta get them out some kind of way. So just to keep doing the same thing, it kind of feels like we putting ourselves in a box and everything. So I think that that's what when it comes to that. But so now you said you had like a sub you said sub story or sub genre or whatever. No,
Yes,
you said sub story. Okay, yeah, you said like a sub story to I guess in a sense like a sequel to the Unbreaking is what you're saying.
could be. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there could also be You know, I was just thinking about it, I've experimented with different genres. I have like a
Mm,
few like dance hall reggaeton songs. I've got
mm,
some more electronic songs. And then I've written songs about really nostalgic times of my life. Like I wrote
okay.
a song about a special friendship of mine when I was a kid. I wrote a song about my group of friends in college that we
Mm,
called, we had a name for our group. I wrote a song about, how I felt when I became a dad, like
okay.
and then I wrote a song about my first girlfriend in ninth grade, and so it could be like
Right.
a nostalgic EP of, of
Yeah.
like looking back, or,
Okay.
it could be I do some sort of like dance hall reggaeton sort of like
Okay.
I don't know,
Okay.
who knows? But I was
Yeah.
just thinking like what could be next? Or maybe I keep with the theme of like personal journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbreaking 2. I don't, call it Unbreaking 2, but like something where like how am I continuing to be unbroken or
Yeah.
unbreaking myself?
Right. Okay. Yeah, because that what I was. Yeah, that was gonna be my next thing. Like, what other? I'm pretty sure you're gonna do other EPs, or do you think you will get to an album level, or what is else in store for us on the album lane? I
Yeah,
should
I
say.
think I think probably so. I mean, the an album I feel like is similar in the vein of what I did with this EP. I mean, it's 8 tracks. If I wanted to, but it's shorter, because I have a
Hmm.
shorter song. I could have taken that and blown it out into more of an album if I wanted to, and I did consider that, but I wanted it to be a an introduction to me as an artist that was
Yeah.
comprehensive enough, but not too
Okay.
long because
I
that can
got you.
be we're also time strapped now, and it's like I
Yeah.
wanted something that was digestible, but had the enough of
Mm,
content to really give them that flavor. Like an album definitely is that chance to dig deeper, even
yeah.
more into a theme. And I do like that the albums and EPs to a lesser extent can be theme based. Like, what am I trying to say? I feel like in a song, you don't have to do that. I mean, sure, like what's this song about? Get it, but like
Hmm.
it's not like a broader story, right? So I do think
Yeah.
as I've seen stories coming up in my music personally, I do, yeah, I like the idea of maybe doing a broader story one day with an album and who knows what it would be about?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so definitely man, when you coming out with these albums, I like how you said that it gives like a introduction to who Capital Ferg is. And
Right.
then so when you kind of keep it at like, yeah, we got the short attention spans nowadays and there's so much music coming out relentlessly and kind of hard to grasp people's attention. So yeah, so coming out with something, they're getting a taste of you and so forth. Because I heard a lot where they say something is different processes and it's not just one way of doing it, but one way I've heard is people like keep putting out the singles until somebody likes what you're doing and then they ask for an album, then come out with the album. But then you got some that just gone do albums and probably ain't nobody heard of them. Not I ain't gonna say nobody heard of them, but they don't have a full like solid fan base or something like that yet. So it's just interesting to see how people processes approaching to like singles versus albums in this climate now, because it was different back when we grew up. You know what I'm saying? It was all about the albums, and the single was really a precursor to get the album. It wasn't really just something people just
Stand
put
on
out there
its
to put out.
own. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
stand on its own. You're right, it was a
Uh-huh. Yeah.
taste. Yeah, and it's funny, you're so
Uh-huh.
right, and that's a good point. I think but we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be making music, and you wouldn't be on the cusp of doing the same if that old world was
Mhm.
still out. Because like we
Yeah.
have tools not only to record more quality music than we've ever had.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the equipment we can get now is 80% there from like pro studio level, whereas before
Yeah.
it was probably way lower. And then you have the
Yeah.
barrier of like, I have to like either get this on CDs or tapes,
Yeah.
and you have the
Mhm.
limitation of geography and
Yeah.
now, they've made it easy to distribute it electronically, digitally. So it's definitely made it easier for independent artists, but it's also flooded the market. And I think to your point, the singles game has become so important because there's so much content flowing out.
Mm.
Even like content creators on YouTube, it's like, oh, you have to, put something out all the time for algorithm and this and that, which
Yeah.
kind of takes away from the art. It's like you start doing it for this machine and industry kind of
Yeah.
protocol
Yeah.
versus why you started doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's a delicate balance. You kind of have to play by the rules some if you want
Yeah.
to be successful or do
Yeah.
something within the, containment that they give
Mhm.
you. But yeah.
And I think too, to piggyback off what you're saying, is I think it need to be a slight separation between independent and mainstream, because
Mhm.
those are two different ecosystems, and when we look at how they move versus how independent person moves is totally different. Now, it definitely depends on the trajectory the artist want to go. So it depends on what lane they want to go in per se. But let's say if the person is like independent. Now, how the mainstream artists and stuff like that do things don't necessarily mean that the independent artists got to move that way. They got a
Right.
little bit more freedom and liberty to do certain things and decisions they can make to, and also they can define what success is, other than looking at streaming numbers. If you're on Billboard and stuff like that, you can kind of define what your success is in that aspect. Would you agree to that, or what do you think about that?
I agree 100%, man. I think it's a catch 22 of like, you want to, a lot of people want to have that level of success, but
Mm,
then your art is boxed in and you
yeah.
have to make these execs and this business happy, right? So
Hmm.
you can't really be the artist that you might have wanted when you started. And
Right.
so I
And
mean, I've read stories of some people staying independent for the purposes of just being able to express themselves and
yep.
enjoy their art rather than maybe getting more money, but then being boxed in and, having to do what they want you to do versus what your real art is.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It just because you can kind of put yourself under unnecessary pressures trying to keep up with the mainstream, and then they got this influx of money, resources, and all that stuff like that to push this artist out there that you don't have privy to. So if you there's like, okay, look, if I move in my own lane, if I'm pushing the needle forward, then I'm successful. But you know everybody around you, or you if you ain't on TV, you ain't popping, but that ain't true. You know what I'm saying? You can definitely have people out here that's very successful and probably making more money than the artist on a record label, and but you just wouldn't know about it and so forth. So that's
Mhm.
why I want to kind of talk on that
Yeah,
about
for
that.
sure.
Yeah. So now let's talk about like what got you into music. Like you said, you started this far in the game. I ain't gonna say late because it ain't late in the game. Whenever you start is whenever you start. So, but in this juncture of your life and everything, why now and not earlier? And,
Yeah.
and and also what got you into it?
Well, I remember being a kid, like having a keyboard, a cassette. We would record stuff off the radio, or my friends and I would like pretend we were a band. I think we called
Mm,
ourselves like Lightning. I remember we like recorded
mm,
songs on the cassette player and then we like we used whiteout and painted on the white tapes and like wrote in pen. Clearly something was in me earlier. I mean, I know probably a lot of kids have done that, but that was came out of me with no prodding or you know, directing in that way. I think I wanted to mention that early on. I think, growing up, being in Atlanta in the 90s, I think hip hop got really big, the whole East Coast, West Coast thing.
mm,
Atlanta hip hop started coming up. And something about hip hop for me gave me this something of almost like a voice for this internal person. Cause like I said, I was a little shy, kind of reserved, and something about the confidence of it, the beat,
yeah.
it was kind of like something that I really started latching onto and
Mm,
liked. And it felt kind of way out of who people thought I was, which I kind of like. But anyway, that was kind of bubbling under the surface.
okay.
So I just mentioned that. But I never made music until 2009 or 10. There was a guy in my neighborhood making or offering guitar lessons. And
Okay.
I've always, like I said back in the day with my friend recording stuff on the cassette, I've always probably wanted to make music. We didn't know how or have the ability or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'm going to take some guitar lessons. Why not? So I
That's
took for about a year, year and a half,
okay.
and I got it good enough to where I could, play chord progressions and, a bunch of different kind of combinations and started working on different finger picking and things. And so I started writing songs and I loved it. It was like
Mm,
this it opened up this feeling in me that I
yeah.
never had. It was just like, "Whoa, this feels so gratifying," and I never knew I could do this. So I wrote a handful of songs. I remember, like I said, I did an open mic night or 2. but then I got married, we had kids, and it kinda it had to get back burnered, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'd pull it back out and be like, "Oh, I can still play these songs or chords."
Yeah.
Like, "Okay, my calluses on my
Right.
fingers are gone, but I can still do it. Okay, let me put it
Right.
back away," right? Just making
Yeah.
sure I don't lose it completely. But then, yeah, then the heartbreak started with, like, the divorce was coming, and, yeah, like I said, I started writing poetry, got the guitar back out. And so it was kind of one of these, I dip my toe in here, dip my toe in,
Yeah.
so it wasn't, I think that was important because I had some foundation, although it was
Mm.
pretty limited in guitar but I had done something like written some songs. I had done an open mic night, which to me was
Okay.
terrifying. It had been, over 10 years at that point, but
Yeah.
that was something, a achievement maybe mentally that probably
Yeah.
helped me
Okay.
if since I didn't have to start from 0, and
Right.
then but yeah, and then I kinda, like I said, found Rap Chat, started kinda rapping some of my poems just straight out, like, just
Mhm.
rap the poem, liked it, got some positive feedback, and then I was like, "Ooh, I should turn one into a song," and I took my daughter's, gaming headphones one night.
Okay.
I was in the Walmart parking lot, it was
Right.
raining,
Yeah.
but I recorded a song, my first full song with, like, a hook and everything.
Gotcha.
And I remember playing it back in the car, and of course, it still sounds rough compared to where I'm now, but
Mm.
compared to just writing acoustic songs and literally recording it as like a voice
Yeah.
memo on your phone, this was so much better because it had the full beat. I recorded my vocals, then add a little effect to it, like reverb and stuff. And I just
Mhm.
remember hearing it in my car, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can do this
Right.
now!" Like
Right.
it was a whole other level, and it just
Yeah.
opened up my eyes, and I was like, I got to get more. And so then I was like, I got to make my own beats. Like I like these here, but like
Mm.
to me, like when I was writing chords, progressions on the guitar, that's part of it too. Like the emotion of putting that together. I was like, I gotta make my own beats. So I figured out, I started playing around in Band Lab using some like loops. Those are like little layers of like, you probably know, of like
Yeah.
a bass line or drum. You can add in a synth and kind of
Mhm.
change the key, align it, and see how it sounds. Started with that, and then I started like selecting virtual instruments, and then kinda like you can actually use your computer, the
Mhm.
keys, and,
Okay.
like, use those as piano keys for,
For
like,
real?
or
Okay.
whatever, and so I was playing around
Mm.
with those, and
Okay.
yeah, I kinda taught myself, it's like MIDI, MIDI, but it's like
Yeah.
programmable, like, music, electronically, but anyways, and from there, I just kept building and getting a little more confident, and I would use a song basically as a teaching moment. I had something I wanted to get out, like, "Ooh, I like that," like, kinda bass line. How do I add, like, "dun, da, da," I'd, like, think of something in my head
Yeah.
and try different instruments and kinda figure it out and
Mhm.
then troubleshoot if I couldn't, right? And then I did meet a guy on Rap Chat, a mixing engineer. He's in the Ukraine, which is funny, but he found me and was like, "I like your stuff. I think you've got good potential. I can help you polish your sound a little more."
Kinda had
And
same thing happen to me, kinda similar. Yeah, go ahead.
and I was like, "Okay." I could let him try, and it was a
Yeah.
huge difference in
Yeah.
terms of what I was just able to use doing presets, in Band Lab. And so he and I guess, formed a partnership, and it helps because he knows my style and voice and what I
Okay.
wanna go for, so it makes it a lot easier, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of the short version of how it all unfolded in real time.
Okay. And I heard in there you kinda you not kinda, but you learn how to produce and so forth and everything like that. So I have any so what was that? How long have you been doing that for? Like, and do you have any of your self produced music that's out in your singles or even on your EP as well?
Yeah, I started doing that honestly. The first 2 tracks I released were beats that I leased on Rap Chat, but then after that, I started making them, not all of them. There'll
Okay.
still be, I'd say probably about 50 to 60% of my songs are beats I made and produced.
Okay.
The other, like, 40% are ones that I leased or licensed. 'Cause sometimes I'll find a beat, and I'm like, "That is a I need
Mhm.
that beat. I gotta license that one." But,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's like if that's the spot already. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. But like,
Mm,
then there are other times where I'm playing around making beats. Because I like making the beat. To me,
mm,
there's so much fun elements in being an artist and making music. Like
yeah,
thinking of an idea, playing around and making the beat, then creating melody and kind of the flow or style. And then now I've been layering in like, all right, how do I do background vocals or make it more atmospheric? So there's always new things to learn and push yourself on. But yeah, most of my songs, over half are ones I produced and made. So and I think on the Unbreaking, I think it's four of them were ones I made from scratch, and then 4 of them were beats I licensed. So, a
okay.
mix as well.
Okay, and what was that feeling like when you first got put your song out that you don't fully did from scratch, from the beat making, producing it, and even laying the tracks on it and so forth? What was that experience like when you first heard yourself?
It was the most fulfilling feeling and mind-blowing, just wow, euphoric feeling. I can't even
Yeah.
describe it, because again, it doesn't even have to be like it's the best song of all time and everyone
Mhm.
loves it. It's not about that. It's about did all that. And I didn't
Right.
know I could do that. I
Right.
never thought I could do that. I
Yeah.
never even, and just that satisfaction of like, damn, I did all that. Wow. Like who knows what else I can do. It
Right.
makes you feel like possibilities are there,
I know. It just like something just get born in you, and you just like got to see what else you can do, and what else will come of it. I understand.
and no one knows what it's like except someone else who has done it too.
Yeah.
You can explain to your friends or whatever that, and they're like, "That's really cool, wow," but like that feeling inside, only someone else who has fulfilled something, self-realized something that they didn't
Mm.
know through a process, and then is looking back and hearing the final product knows what
Yeah.
that's like.
Right. And then also too, with like said that they don't understand the decisions and the grit and grind and the ups and downs that it took you to get to that point. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That all that they see is the finished product. Whether that took a few months or 10 years, as it sounded like it took for you 10 plus years and everything for you or whatever. They hearing that final product, and so forth. So what now from you making that from your production and your tracks and so forth, you hearing yourself, you got that euphoric feeling. But when somebody else hearing your music and they vibing to it and so forth, what was that like? How was that feeling like? Somebody be able to reciprocate what you was feeling when you made it and so forth.
I mean, also very gratifying, but also it's a little out of body
Hmm.
because it's almost like I remember making it, but then I don't really, you're like, did I really do all that? And then
Yeah.
it's like they're vibing to it and you're like, that's me. And you're like having to like remind yourself. It's weird, definitely. I remember a friend of mine when I first did one of the ones that I made myself, and it was more polished. It wasn't, I guess, at the level I am now, but it's still earlier equipment and stuff. But it was definitely leveled up from where I was. And
Mm.
I remember them saying like, this could be on the radio. I mean, like, but I think
Yeah.
what they were trying to say
Yeah.
is it did not sound like an independent artist who didn't know what they were doing. It sounded like someone who knows what they're doing.
Okay.
That was really satisfying and
Okay.
wow to hear because
Right.
like that's what I'm hoping for. But then I'm like, well, maybe I'm biased.
Mhm.
We hear ourselves with maybe a better light or a critical light, one of
Yeah.
the two. You go back
Yeah.
and forth. You're like, oh, I sound terrible, or oh,
Yeah.
this is great. And then other people hear it and they're like, eh. But to hear them say that, I was like, oh wow, okay.
Okay. All right. Then did that put like a battery in your back a little bit more to like,
It
okay,
did
yeah,
for sure, man. It was like, oh wow. Uh, Again, I'm not doing it for that, but
yeah,
but that's a fuel point to keep going
right,
and
right.
to keep learning in that way. Because it's like
Mhm.
if you're doing it just for yourself, you probably still would learn and try to get better, but it's different when you're also thinking about putting it out there. There are other considerations you want to think about of like telling a story, building a brand, or making something consistent and feel like you. And I think there is that balance of like doing it for the art and then also putting it out there. Like you have to constantly be aware of like what is my bigger motivation, and I want to make sure I try to always lead with the art. Or if I want to do something, I'm like, is that really what I want to do? And if it's not, like, yeah, let's no, that's the decision then. That you like default to
Mm.
what feels natural and what to you, you know?
Yeah, and you can definitely like tell that you love it. Like from me hearing from when you first started to you creating and so forth. I think a lot of people when they get into it, it is either like one, maybe three things. Like one is where it's a hobby to them, where it's more like they just doing it just because they don't really. No, a whole lot of people ain't really got to hear it. It might be just therapeutic for them to get something out, or two, some people just trying to make a quick buck, so they don't really care what they put out, as long as it gets to the ear that they want to get it to and get the money from it. Then you got two that just really like genuinely love this stuff and it's all of those things. But you definitely want to make money from it, but you love it first. I think that keeps you going a whole lot longer than you just doing it for the money or just for a hobby. Because in music it can be a very expensive hobby unless if you going to record yourself, like going to a studio or something like that. But if you got your own stuff, then it kind of take the price down, the money down some. But it can be a very expensive hobby doing it if you're doing it that way. So yeah. So that's something I realized, if you gonna make this music, it to a lot of people it's hard. You don't put all this music, all this time, effort, money into making an album or making a song and then nobody hearing it or whatever the case is or saying you ain't good enough. I think there's a lot of things that keeping people away from it and everything like that. So what would you say for to people like to keep pushing on past those hardships when it comes to the music industry? Because you got uh all those negative reactions like this is a pipe dream and there ain't no money in music and so on and so forth. So people hear this. So what would you say to all
I mean, some of that stuff may be true in certain circumstances, but
that?
I think for me, if I never advanced past where I am now, it would still be a success.
Yeah.
I am blown away that I used music to heal part of my healing.
Mm.
I'm amazed that I had this in me. And to me, that's the success.
Yeah.
Anything else is icing on the cake. And so I would ask people like if, you never made the success that you dream about, would you still do it? If they're
Yeah.
like, no, then I would say maybe reevaluate and not saying don't do it at all. But you can tell if someone is doing it for the love of it and authentic from an authentic place.
Yeah.
And that's what people connect with. Whether they connect with it all the way to success is
Mhm.
out of your hands, but if what's in your hands, you put what you have into it, and it's coming from a place of art and really who you are and what you love, that's the success. And I think, I would just try to really anchor on why you're doing it and what
Okay.
you love, and whether it's
Yeah.
music or not. Like,
Yeah.
don't do stuff just because you wanna make money. Money's great, but even like someone starts a business, if they start it in something that they don't feel passionate about or like, they're gonna be miserable. If like, you don't have that bug to make music for the love of doing it, if no one ever heard it, just you and your friends and that satisfaction you get, that should be the main driver. Everything else is like additional, but like, you know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
think that playing out the worst case scenario, or if it never took off, would you still do it? And if the answer is yes, then you got keep going, because if it does, that's icing on the cake, but it's not gonna destroy you if it doesn't. And I feel like that's where good things come. Like when people are like looking for love or look, I have to find this. And then it's
Mhm.
like, no, you always feel like it's when I least expected it, or I was
Yeah.
doing being me and being authentic and having fun. That's, I
Right.
feel, where the sweet spot is. And the beauty of that is the outcome is not what's driving you or hopefully going to make you satisfied.
Right. And I'm like glad you
Mhm.
said that. And I what you were saying about the achievements. Another question I wanted to ask too is for as well. I think we need to define what our achievements are. I said a little bit of that earlier, but you just started. That was achievement. You getting out your comfort zone, out of your fears. That's an achievement. Actually making the music, producing it, and so forth, and everything. That's an achievement. I think we don't look at those little micro achievements and so forth, and then and those big achievement. Yeah, you want to make money, you want to have these certain accolades and so forth, and you seeing those achievements is not there yet, but you ain't looking back to see where you have from where you started to where you are now. I think that's very important. I say it in fitness with your fitness goals. Look at how your clothes fitting and this, that, and everything. Look at all those little small things. You're not really fully seeing it just yet. So I'm glad that you said that. You already feel like a success and everything because how the journey you done been through and your humble beginnings until now I'm putting it out there and on wax for everybody to hear and enjoy, consume. And so with that, like what would you say other achievements that you have made throughout this two two and some change journey in your music industry, in your music
I think other achievements, I mean, honestly, I think just growing in terms of how I use my voice
mhm,
to get my message out. I think
yeah,
I've learned and gotten braver in how to try different things with my voice, and it may not always sound good the first time, but it's an instrument too, as well as the way, string words together, or the, volume you use, or all of that. I think the outside of just like making it, packaging it, producing it, how I've learned to use my voice, I think has been an achievement. Just like the abilities were always under the surface, like my voice is still my voice, but it's like you start to use them, and kind of like with fitness too, like
mm,
you start to realize, hey, as I use my legs or whatever, they are getting stronger. Like my legs are good. I didn't just, yeah, I made them stronger, but they were good legs to begin with. Kind of like, okay, well, I've made my voice
mhm,
better, but it was still something to be polished, and you had that core there to begin with, and so realizing that, and trying to find things. Okay, well, what do I got asset wise, and how can I polish and refine what I have versus like trying to be something else. And so I think using my voice within the what I've been given, I think has been an achievement, and realizing like, oh, I can sing like that, or I can do that flow. I'll practice it, or whatever it might be. I think, and that's probably the most personal one, because the voice is all what it is at the end of the
yeah.
day.
And I hear a lot of talk when people start first making music about with their voice. Usually, what we think of how we think we sound is different from
Huh.
how everybody else perceive us.
Yeah.
Perceive how we sound. So when you first hearing yourself back, some people don't like it, some people do. It just depends. So when you first heard yourself, what did you think about your?
Yeah. It was one of those things where I think I thought I sounded better than I did when I played it back. But it's also one of those things, you look in the mirror and then you see a picture of yourself and you're like, "Hmm."
Right?
So I think it's learning how you take in what comes out of you, and try to then zoom back out and imagine, be more objective with yourself. I
Okay.
think we have a ability to be so self-critical and
Yeah,
like,
we
"I'm an
do.
idiot, man." But like other people don't see us that way. I mean, they certainly don't. They'll see some, weaknesses or whatever, but not in the way that you are so hard on yourself, right? So I think
Yeah.
learning to kind of take a step back and be like, you know what? No, it's not as bad as I'm saying, or like,
Mm,
oh, I made it better, right? So learning how to be kind to yourself, but also listen to yourself as best you can, like someone else might, which is
right.
so hard to do.
That's what I'm saying. Like I heard myself, and it didn't really sound too bad. I think because I was already doing recording myself, going on live, and doing look my little
There
help
you
talk
go.
so
Yeah.
for us fitness wise, I was already doing it. So and I was hearing myself back already. So when I started actually like recording a little stuff to hear myself, I kind of heard the same thing. So it didn't really irritate me that much. So forth. So like, so what have helped you to hone in your voice? Another thing too, people like I hear is they not only your voice but like your sound. So it's because sometimes they be saying that they have a inspiration. Like, okay, I try to sound like Jay-Z. I try to sound like Nas or something like that, or my favorite Ludacris or something like that, or whatever. And you hear those influences in their music till like third album or so forth. Now they sounded different. They don't sound like they influences. They sounded different or whatever. So did you kind of find yourself doing the same thing, or
Ludacris is one of my favorites. So, if you listen to my song Download, that one, I was sort of channeling Sean Paul and Ludacris in the
okay,
same song. Like, I
okay,
wasn't trying to copy them, but I
I
was
got you.
doing my version of, like, I love the dance hall kinda swag and vibe, and I love the way Ludacris plays with words and emphasizes, and he's kind of funny too. He uses
Yeah,
humor and
right.
he'll go like deep in a word,
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
So I was trying to think like, okay, what's my version of that? Like again, I don't want to be ludicrous, but what do I like about what he does, and
hmm,
what do I like about what Sean Paul has done? What do I like about maybe Outkast or Future, other Atlanta, so it's definitely, and what you heard growing up is gonna shape what you make because
yeah,
those are your forming influences, and so,
yeah.
uh, yeah, I've definitely done that,
Okay,
and maybe earlier, I would be like, "How would one of these rappers, handle this beat?" Now I don't think about it that specifically, I think it's just part of what makes my style.
right.
It's less of a conscious, let me think about this person. But yeah, I remember when I did that song Download, I was like, oh man, I'm kind of channeling a little Luda in this part, and I was like, oh, I like that, but it
Okay.
wasn't like I was trying to copy. It was just kind of
Yeah.
like I can tell my roots are showing.
Yeah. It's about like it's something you foreign to and you don't really know what to do. So you go with what you know and then put that on there, then kind of find your way out of it and find your own thing through it. So okay, so for us finding your voice and your own sound, what did it take to do that? Are you still structuring that out now?
I think experimenting, and you're gonna have a lot of, not be afraid to try something because you don't have to put it out. You can delete it.
Okay.
Try it. Be
Right.
like,
So
this sounds crazy. Like maybe there's something, I hear something as a possibility in my head, but when I execute it, it sounds terrible. And then I'm like, well, let me try it again. And then come back to it like another day. Okay, let me try this again. Maybe I was pushing too hard. I need to lay back. So being giving yourself the time and the permission to sound bad or to not have something release ready for a while, like playing with it and not judging it, coming back and trying it again, and giving yourself the time to experiment and permission to sound bad at certain
okay.
times.
I like that. And while we on the subject, like what have been your like musical influences that that got you into music and so forth?
Well, definitely, we've touched on a couple. I mean,
Yeah.
growing up in Atlanta, Outkast and Luda were huge, and Ti. Those were definitely some
Okay.
of my hip hop influences. But I liked like new wave, '80s new wave, even though it was a little bit before my time. Like Depeche
Hmm.
Mode, I used to listen to, and even like Justin Timberlake. I think
Okay.
he's influenced the kind of crossover and R and
Yeah.
B kind of style from like a white guy, and then
Hmm.
let's see. I mean, I even listen to like, Green Day and Nirvana. Like that's not the
Okay.
music I make, but that still is part of what music means to me. And it might come out in a style that's not that, but I
Uh huh.
still listen to that. So I think I blend different styles into songs even maybe within songs, like the one I was telling you about, it blends maybe
Mhm.
kind of a couple different styles, or I'll maybe layer in a synth that I might have heard like in a Depeche Mode song or whatever.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I've this EP is definitely more, the pop hip hop genre, but some of the songs out of the 50 I've made, I've done,
Yeah.
I did one that was just piano. The one I did about my daughter was more of like a, you know, indie rock song, right? So, I mean,
Mhm.
that wouldn't make sense on the EP. So I think you can hear if you listen to everything.
Mm.
Yeah, the core is still probably going to be more hip hop, but you'll hear other genres in there. I don't know. Like, again, that's me and I'm putting it out. Some people have said, oh, you're mixing genres. That's not good for the algorithm to know who you are. And I'm like, well, that's
Yeah, I
not my
heard that too.
main goal. Like, yeah, and that's why I'm like, well, if the EP, I'll try to be true to that like
Mhm.
theme, right? And like I said, 75% of my songs are very, hip hop oriented, but I don't know. I think that the broad influences that I listen to come out in my music. Yeah, it's mostly hip hop, but not all. That's just part of it. So
Okay. So I didn't ask, is the Unbreaking mostly hip hop or is it
yeah,
mostly hip hop? Okay. All right. And like so with future projects, maybe like have a mixture of the hip hop and other things that you blend because you say you're more of a pop artist than you are a hip hop artist and so forth. So and I think that's a better way to like put it because you can kind of go in so many different ranges when you say pop or whatever and everything like
right,
that as well. Versus if you just pick one lane and do hip hop and yeah, if you the sound it this way, then you try to go to a whole like you try to go R&B the next, and then yeah, people can get it misconstrued, but at the same time, I feel like with doing it, it still throttles the creator. Because they if they making all type of music, why I get it from the business standpoint, you know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to get fans and stuff like that or whatever. But from the creator standpoint, you just want to make music and that's the
right.
expression of that. So like you don't want to just stay in one box like we were talking about earlier. So but what do you got to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would be like, I was thinking, what is hip hop? What is pop? What is
Yeah.
electronic?
Uh,
The definitions I feel like have become even blurrier than they've ever been, and I've honestly sometimes struggled. Like, you have to select primary genre and secondary genre. Half
uh-huh.
the time, like, I don't know. I'll run it through this. Submit Hub has this like free genre checker. Again,
Okay.
it's AI, so I don't
Uh-huh.
always run to the bank with it, but I'll just
Yeah.
see what it says.
Uh-huh.
I agree. I mean, some songs I'm like, I guess I'll call this pop and then hip hop
Yeah.
secondary." Others I'm like, "No, this is hip hop. I'm gonna call it hip
Mhm.
hop." It's hard, and
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no right answer. And again, that I feel like you have to choose your box when your box might be taken from all these boxes, so it's hard to
Uh-huh.
choose.
Yeah.
But to your point, maybe pop is the easier choice in some ways because I think the reason I say pop hip hop is because I think,
Okay. Hip hop. I
like,
got that.
how, like, Ja Rule and 50 Cent, it's like a pop song, but
Yeah.
it's rap. They've
Right.
got a hook, it's melodic, it was played on top 40 radio, you know what I
That's a
mean?
good
So that's
yeah.
kinda where I try to define, like, what do I mean by pop hip hop? It's kinda got those same sensibilities, but, I mean, you could say, like, Ja Rule was a pop artist back in the day, and people would be
Yeah.
like, "No way, he's hip hop," but, like, no, he was with all the normal top 40 people,
Yeah.
so
Uh, Drake comes to mind with that too as
yeah,
well.
Drake too, he's
Yeah. Yeah.
pop, even though he's
Mhm.
not pop, but he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, so yeah, when you had said hip hop pop, but yeah, they do have the term hip hop. That's what they say, so they take the hop out of it and say hip hop or whatever. Okay, and yeah, I don't know. It was Black Keith. I was talking with him, and he got like three alter egos. He got one for hip hop, one for rock, and one for R&B. So he got a different name for each one of them to put out music, and that I feel like that it's cool, but you know what I'm saying. But at the same time, it kind of get hard to
Which
uh,
one? Yeah, he'll do a
yeah,
song, you're like, "Which
yeah,
one does
uh-huh,
this go to?" I don't
yeah,
know, maybe it's kind of
yeah,
a blend. Do I put it out of this and this?
yeah. So yeah, so I like his approach to it, but at the same time, like it'd be kind of hard to keep up with, to me, and everything like that. I also thought about like, for is making like a your own character in a sense, and and kind of kind of in a sense what he's saying, but make your own character. Like Akeem Ali, I don't know if you heard of him, and everything like that. He been in the Atlanta scene a lot. He from Jackson, Mississippi, by the way. But yeah, so he got his Kimi Casanova
Mhm.
persona, something like that. Maybe that will help, but I don't know. Then it still get convoluted in a way where people kind of still misconstrue what music is he actually making. Fans of Kimi Casanova probably not fans of Kim Ali. See, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's just crazy. But maybe but maybe we'll figure it out. And that's the reason why I say when it comes to mainstream and independent, the independent person probably can get away with that a lot more better than the mainstream artist. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's what I was saying. It need to be like I don't know, but as we get into it, we'll figure it out for our own self. I'm sure you will too as well. But before we kind of close out, man, I seen here you said you have a knack for making up words and nicknames. So like explain that.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's part of just my sense of humor. My family growing up was like, that's kind of the way they do things. There's all kinds of weird words we'll say, like if something's like, messed up, we'll be like, oh, that's cronked, kind of like,
Okay.
cattywampus, or like, that's just one example. So I think that was in me. And so I kind of took that with my friends, and
Mhm.
I'll have weird nicknames for some of my friends. Like I have a friend I call Structure, and other friends like I call them a weird name, or like I don't know, I make up words to like try to boss someone around. We'll say like, don't manty me, like that means like boss me around, and like
Okay.
don't be a manty, like just
Okay. I got
I don't know where it came. I think, yeah, like I said, my family growing up would do that, and so it kind of gave me permission, and
Yeah.
also like was
Yeah.
just part of what we did, and so I
Right. Right.
kept that going with friends, and it's funny because I feel like language, sometimes it's hard to describe something exactly. Like when you translate one language to another, you'd be like, oh, we don't have a word for that in this language. So the way we're describing it is this way. And I feel like
Okay. I got
sometimes when you make up a word, it's very specific to you and how you're using it with either your friends or family.
I
And you
got you.
like
Yeah.
it, I don't know. It kind
I
of
get what
does
you're saying.
something. It makes you chuckle. It just makes life a little bit more.
I get you. Almost like an inside joke, but
Yeah.
but for your own clique,
Yeah.
culture and all that stuff like that and surroundings and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. Like in black culture, hip hop culture, and stuff like that, we love nicknames too. So
I
that's the
love
reason
it.
why I
Yeah.
brought it, and everything. Now, what I asked too, because my son he doesn't have a nickname. Well, he got a nickname from his mom and grandmama, but I don't think they call him that no more. But for some reason, we just didn't really give him a nickname that stuck, and everything. He's 19 now, and he still don't have a nickname. Trey is my nickname. My real name is Earl. So
Are
I'm
you
the
for
third.
3?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Trade me a 3 year. So, and that's how that came. But I got other nicknames too, and everything. I got a few nicknames. One my mom personally calls me, and other names other people around me call me too as well. So it's just him. I don't know how he. I guess you guys like wonder how he missed that nickname because you try to think of something. I don't want to force nothing. And usually nicknames happen like organically. They don't really happen like you try to force a nickname on a person. So maybe we'll find one for him. But it just it's just weird how that happened. You know what I'm saying?
That plays on that, like
Yeah. Okay,
or
I like that. I like that. Yeah, but his name Jonas. Yeah, because I wanted to name him like with Trey in it, like Trey Sean or something like that or whatever. Yeah, so but him being the fourth, if he was the fourth Earl, yeah, maybe Tro. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I don't know.
oh,
Yeah, shorten up Quattro. Yeah, so man, and everything. I don't know, but it'll come to me, man, and see if you like it or whatever. And it'll happen to stick. Maybe it'll happen later on.
maybe Quad Joe, like because he's Jonas, or
Jonas, yeah.
you can play around with that. It's gotta
Oh
be
yeah,
now, yeah,
it got to be
you gotta be
organic.
a nickname for you," and you tell him, he's like, "What are you talking about?" You just
Uh,
have to, like, say it once, "All right,"
yeah,
and see
yeah.
how it feels, and then how other people vibe with it.
Yeah, for real. Okay, cool. I just wanted to, cause like I was just thinking about that. So when you wrote that down, all right.
Yep.
So, man, before we get, is there anything that we talked about a good deal today? Is there anything else that you would like to discuss that we haven't spoke on?
No, man, I think we've covered it all. I mean, in
Mm,
terms of the music, in terms of the process, I just want people to know
mm,
they can do a lot more than they think and a
yeah,
lot more than they've done to date. I
mm,
don't think we're ever going to realize our full potential, in life, but you can start making headway in it because you can do a lot of things. So, if there's something you want to do and you've thought about music or otherwise, take a first step. And it really comes down to, I know you know this in the fitness side,
yeah,
we get intimidated, I think, by the end state that we really want,
yeah,
and we don't know how to do all the in between, and so we get frozen and say, "Oh, it's not possible." We don't think it's possible. For me, I never had this end state or I'm gonna be an artist, I'm gonna make an EP. Like that, I was like, okay, I'm heartbroken. I'm gonna write a poem. Okay. I have a lot of poems now. I want to
yeah,
turn it into a song. The next day, like, oh, I want to make a beat. How do I do that?
yeah,
And it was like little, like tiny movements, but
yeah,
it was never, and that was the goal of like, how do I make this one thing better? Okay, how do I do
mhm,
something else now? It
yeah,
wasn't like my end goal is here.
right,
And that's okay. I mean, sometimes you do want to say my end goal is here, like in fitness, and then
mm,
you lay it out day by day so it's less intimidating. But
yeah,
it's also okay on the artistic and passion side of just be like, I want to try this today. And
yeah.
then tomorrow I want to try this. And then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I moved here there. I never planned that. That's pretty cool.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I agree. Setting it out. I like that. So if they scared to jump or have those fears and so forth, make those little small steps and like what those are to get to the goal. I ain't think of it like that. In other aspects outside of just fitness, 'cause I
Yeah.
do say that a lot in fitness and everything and so forth. So yeah, like that, man. So I appreciate that, because that was gonna be one of my questions. I was gonna say any advice you want to give the
Yeah.
artists or
Well, I
people who
cover
jumping.
both. Yeah.
Yeah, you cover both definitely. And also too, what would you say the biggest takeaways that people could get from this conversation that we had?
I think just there's a lot of possibility and don't limit yourself or don't limit others. Just think about possibility and let life flow and
Mm,
do what comes natural to you and don't put pressure on yourself. Just get in that flow and remember there's possibilities and enjoy, you
yeah,
know.
definitely. I like that. All right, so before we get out of here, man, let everybody know again where they can listen to your music, book you, and the whole nine from there. Set your links out again.
Yeah, so you can follow me on all the major platforms for music, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, title, all that. Capital Ferg, like
Hmm.
capital
Hmm.
Capital Ferg. Just search me, and then yeah, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are the main socials I use. So if you search Capital Ferg, you should be able to find me. But I think my handle is just Capital Ferg
Yeah.
all together on YouTube,
Okay.
TikTok, and then capital underscore Ferg underscore music on Instagram.
Okay. Cool. Y'all follow my man, and
And I'll
check him
follow
out.
you
And
back.
he said he'll follow you back. That's what's up. But build that following up.
Yeah.
Follow for follow. I got you. And I wanted to say too, when I was looking at your name, Capital Ferg, even though I seen Capital Ferg, I was wanting to say Captain Ferg because and
You're
everything like
not the
that.
first. Other people it
Yeah, I like that. That would been cool too as well. You know what I'm saying,
would.
Captain Ferg. Yeah, and
Too
everything.
late, but
Yeah.
someone else can be captioned.
Yeah, but yeah, because I mean, but you have other folks that don't change their name before. Diddy,
Yeah.
changed it a few times. 2 Chainz don't change his name. It was Titty Boy. If we talking about Atlanta, you from Atlanta and so forth. So it could change.
Yeah.
If you want to. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's a cool name too as well. I like Capital Ferg as well, but I
Yeah.
was wanting to keep saying Captain Ferg.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, definitely. Close it in out there. I've been your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, Sculpt N Create, and my guest here, Capital Ferg. Say, we out of here. Stay sculpting, stay creating. Peace.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for fitness coaching to help you reach your goals, want to join our animated network for fitness guidance, collaborations, networking, and community, or are interested in being a guest on the show, check out the links in the description. Stay creative, stay fit, and we'll holler at you next time.